In this episode of Trainspotting, I sample the delights of a rail tour to Cornwall behind a pair of Class 50s. And at the other end of Britain, meet the man who is reinvigorating the railways in the highlands of Scotland. While Steve has to content himself with a trip on the fastest passenger train yet invented, the Transrapide Maglev in Germany. One thing that doesn't get enough credit in this country are the various rail tours that happen every weekend, from the highlands of Scotland to the freight-only lines of Cornwall. But how do you go about organising one of these rail tours? Well, today I'm going to take one down to Cornwall, and as an extra added bonus, it's behind a pair of Class 50s. Most rail tours start early in the morning with a number of pickup stations en route. This particular tour had started at Guildford at 5:35, but I benefited from a slightly more sociable departure from Salisbury. First up was a full English breakfast. It's quite amazing how so much food can be prepared in such a cramped environment. But very tasty it was too, and I enjoyed mine in the company of Peter Watts, the Managing Director of Pathfinder Tours, who has been organising such trips for over 30 years. So Peter, firstly, can you tell me, as a passenger, what can I expect if I take one of your tours? Because I mean, I've had my breakfast this morning, but for the rest of the day, if you could go through it.
Well, here in Premier Class, we'll be serving light luncheon before we arrive down in Cornwall. But we're not going right to the Line's End at Penzance, because we find in central Cornwall now there's two very good attractions. One, of course, is Eden Project, which a lot of people know about, and there's still a lot of people who want to go there. But as an alternative, the Bodmin and Wenford steam railway run from nearby up to the old market town at Bodmin, which in itself is good for an exploration for an afternoon. And then during the course of the evening on the return journey, an evening dinner will be served.
What's the criteria? What makes a good rail tour?
It varies. I mean, it varies from week to week, and it is down really to us to feel what people want to do, try and come up with that recipe, and hope that the cooking, the end result, is what they want. I mean, it's up to us to tempt them and convince them they want a day out by rail. As we cruised into Cornwall, our first stop was Bodmin, for those passengers wishing to spend a few hours on the Bodmin and Wenford steam railway. Whilst at Par, those wishing to visit the Eden Project hopped on awaiting buses. I, however, was given the opportunity to take a privileged look inside the St Blaise depot, where the two Class 50s were to be parked up for the afternoon. John Dunster of the 50 Fund gave me an explanation of the alliance that has recently been created to look after these magnificent locos.
The Class 50 Alliance is an operating umbrella organisation really for the 50 Fund and Project Defiance, and it's as a result of the two groups coming together about 5 years ago and pooling our resources really to operate the four Class 50s that we've got under our care.
Which numbers do you have?
And we have these two, which are 031 and 049, and we also have 044 and 035, and they're based on the Severn Valley Railway.
So when did your interest in the 50s first begin?
Well, I grew up with Class 50s. I was born and brought up in Devon, in Exeter, and they were, part of the everyday scene in the late 70s and early 80s when I grew up. And when I started on what was then BR in the mid-80s, they were still very much part of my life, and they're still there now.
Because how exciting is it for you to have two of them out on this rail tour today?
Well, it's great to see them doing what they were designed to do. I mean, with the greatest respect, on a preserved railway you're limited to 25 miles an hour, and it's a bit like having a racing car that you can't get out of first gear with, and now we can let them do what they were designed to do and see them do it every now and then on a restricted basis.
So you're going to be travelling back with them this afternoon?
Yes, afraid so, yeah. Tough job.
Somebody's got to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how far in advance did you have to book these 250s that are pulling us today?
Actually, the locos aren't too much of a problem these days. We've got to really reserve our trains sort of 6 months out because of the train crew and the availability of access over the network system. Capacity is the main criteria. So it's very much needs planning well in advance.
Right. Is there anywhere you haven't been that you want to go with a rail tour?
30 years we've been in a lot of places, but yeah, I suppose the places we haven't been and we'd like to go are the branch lines which have a sort of 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock service during the daytime and we can't get a train down. So just every now and then we'll have a nocturnal outing to travel the passenger lines in the middle of the night, just to say we've done them.
And out of 30 years of being on rail tours, which has been your favourite?
I don't think I could say there's one, I'll be honest, but one of the things personally that gives me a great bit of pleasure is taking Great Western steam engines to the West Country, or perhaps some of the Scottish diesels working in their homeland amongst the breathtaking scenery in Scotland. So yes, I could wax lyrical from that.
Well, what a marvellous day I've had. I've been wined and dined the 189 miles between Salisbury and Parr and back again, and been hauled by a pair of Class 50s to boot. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are hundreds of these rail tours organised every year, and there's bound to be one to suit your taste. Oh, and by the way, if you ever get a chance to push the boat out a bit and upgrade to Premier Class, I can thoroughly recommend it. Thank you, Vic. Yeah. Cheers. Pleasure.
What on earth was that, I hear you ask? Well, it could be the future of rail transportation. It's the Transrapid magnetic levitation system, and I'm here in northern Germany to find out all about it. Jörg Metzner, you're Technical and Operations Director at Transrapid. What is this?
What we see here is a latest model of high-speed levitation train operated absolutely mechanically contact-free, no contact between rail and train. We see the latest model TR08 of this train set here.
It looks fantastic, but I guess it didn't look like this at day one of development, did it?
No, this project has a very long history. This started in the 1930s with the first ideas, but at this time people didn't have the technology to build a system like this. Later on, the decision was made in Germany to develop a levitation train. We started with small models in the laboratory, and then there were small train sets on very small test tracks, and the model TR05 was the first train set to carry some passengers with a low speed, and it was shown to the public during a traffic fair in the city of Hamburg. I remember when the first train set in full scale, the TR06, was levitating for the very first time here. And when we went on with the tests and when we reached the high speed, the 400 kilometers per hour with this train set. The last exciting milestone was when we brought this system with a train set like this here into the commercial operation in Shanghai.
So you've already sold one of these systems then, the Shanghai one?
Yes, it's operated there on a 30-kilometer long track for travelers going between the city of Shanghai and the international airport.
And what speed will they be going?
So in normal operation, the speed is 430 kilometers per hour, but the system is designed for 500 kilometers per hour.
500 kilometers an hour? That's about 300 miles an hour.
Yes, surely.
The next major project that Transrapid are hoping to have commissioned is for a similar airport link in Munich. And as this computer simulation shows, it will continue the development of unrivaled speed and style. To explain how the whole system works, Jörg took me on a tour around the site. From the central operations room, both the train and the track systems are monitored and controlled. The test track here at Laaven has been designed in a dog bone layout with 3 sets of points enabling continuous running. But as the track is made of concrete sections, the points are over 100 metres long and take quite a bit of moving. Well, the mechanics have just kicked in, as you can see. Moves across, glides seamlessly. I've never seen a point system like this anywhere in the world. Moves across, beautiful fit, just about coming to a stop now. Must have taken 10-15 seconds in total to complete. It really is an incredible piece of machinery. Well, Jörg, this is the bottom of the train here. It's a levitating train. How do we make it levitate?
Here we have these magnets, and when we want to levitate the train, we just power up these coils in the electromagnets, and then the train set will be pulled upwards to the track, and after levitating we have an air gap of only 10 millimeters here.
So we've got our train up and ready. How do we make it go forwards?
We make it go forward with this device here. This is part of the track. These are the motor windings, and the principle is similar to what you know from a normal rotating electromotor. And then it's not rotating, but it's moving forward.
So all the power for the train comes from the track?
It's correct. The power for propulsion we don't have inside the train. There's no electric machine or motor inside the train set. It's done in the track, not in the train.
Now you said there's a gap between the train and the track. If it's not touching it, where does it get its power from?
The onboard power we get from special devices, so-called linear generators, built into these levitation magnets, and whenever the train is moving, we get enough induced energy and power from these linear generators to power up the levitation system, the air conditioning, and whatever we need on board the train.
Is there power permanently across the whole circuit?
Only a small section where the train is located actually is powered up.
So it's powered up while it's going across it and then it switches itself off?
That's it, yeah.
So how does the overall performance of this compare to a conventional train?
When we travel with 200 kilometers per hour through the cities, noise level is only half of what we know from standard urban trains. Even the cost for maintenance is very low in comparison to standard railroads, because there's no mechanical contact between the train and the track. There's no wearing out, and for this reason maintenance costs will be reduced in comparison to standard trains.
So I found out what magnetic levitation is and how it works. Join me after the break when I put theory into practice and take a ride on the Transrapid. I'm at the Transrapid test facility in northern Germany. We've seen how the magnetic levitation systems work in theory, but now I'm going to take a ride and enjoy the Transrapid experience at first hand. Good morning. So Jörg, we're now on one of your test runs. What happens?
So we're just now traveling in this train without any mechanical contact between the train and the track.
Now is it just me, or does this feel like we're getting fast very quickly?
Yeah, we are accelerating up to 300 kilometers now, and we are traveling in a curve radius. We only have 1,900 meters of curve radius here, and it's possible to travel with 300 kilometers per hour here. So you don't feel any side acceleration in the curve. The reason is the track has a banking angle of about 12 degrees, and that neutralizes these side acceleration forces. We accelerate with about 1 meter per square second, or 0.1 g. We will accelerate up to a maximum speed of nearly 400 kilometers per hour.
And inside of the train, this doesn't look like a train to me. I've never seen a train like it. It's wider.
This train set is wider inside as standard railroad trains. It looks like more an airplane. And
it does.
The feeling during traveling on this elevated guideway, the passenger is more feeling like flying, not driving the train.
We're not alone, are we, Jörg? There are others with us.
Yes, we have a lot of traveling guests taking part in the test rides, even with a high speed.
And while we are travelling on the train, what tests are going on board?
And we have a lot of measurement equipment, monitoring systems, diagnostic systems, and there are always modifications in some parts of the train, in the magnets, different types of magnets, modifications in the electronic systems and software systems.
I can see somebody up front there. That's the driver, I guess. He's looking after driving the train from here?
Yes, here in test operation we still have somebody in the cockpit over there. So he's actually not really driving the train, he's monitoring technical system. He has some communication going on with operation control, so he has more monitoring function.
Okay, but if he's not driving the train, who is then?
The train is now operated by a computer. The operation is full automatic. You don't need a driver, you don't need some persons doing anything during operation.
So what can they see and do back in the control room?
We have a lot of information about the test run going on. We have information about the train location, the speed, the traveling direction, and the operation manager can monitor all this. So nearly every detail of the technical system is monitored there in the control room.
Tell us a little bit about the actual track itself. You have loops, you have straights.
We have a track here with a length of about 32 kilometers. We have different construction types of guideway girders. We have concrete girders, steel girders. We have a lot of different construction types in test here.
Now I can feel us decelerating now. I mean, we've just been up to 380 kilometers an hour. That's about 240 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But we're coming down very fast, aren't we?
Yeah, we're deaccelerating now with about 1 meter per square second, and
Right.
we have to do this. We only have 8 kilometers of straight track. We have to go down to a speed level of about 200 kilometers before we go into this southern loop. There we have only a curve radius of 1,000 meters, and we can travel there with a maximum speed of 220 because of this low curve radius.
And how close to maximum performance do you think you are now on the testing? Do you think it gets better?
Yes, some new technology is just under construction, and we think that this new train set will come here for some testing next year.
And do you think this could be the future for transport systems?
Yes, sure. I think in future we will have complete Transrapid networks in maybe 20, 30 or 50 years. We will get some problems with mineral oil. There will not be sufficient energy reserves, and for this reason I think we have to invest in modern railroad systems, and the Transrapid is one of these.
Well, I thought I was going fast on the ICE3 train, but that has eclipsed everything. Speeds of 250 miles an hour. At that, the Maglev is like no other form of rail transport. Their motto is flying at ground level. And that's right, it's more like an aeroplane than a train, and it's certainly a mode of transport I could get used to.
Many of us who live in towns and cities take our local rail services for granted. But what about the more remote parts of Great Britain? Here, the railway can often be a source of communication, a social lifeline, or the only form of supply to and from an area. So I've come here to Inverness to see how the railway is used to its full effect and how one man has the job of developing it further. The man in question is Frank Roach, and he has the challenging job of Rail Development Officer for the Highlands of Scotland. And he started off by showing me one of his successful new projects.
This is timber that's arrived from Kinbrace, arrived in about 6 o'clock this morning, having been loaded overnight. The Kinbrace project is fairly unusual in as much as there are no sidings. The train sits on the running line for about 3.5 hours in possession time and gets loaded by machine from the trackside.
And this is one of the initiatives that you've set up?
Yeah, it's a sort of low-cost way of getting timber out that would be otherwise landlocked. There will just be no other economic way of getting it to a market at all.
I understand it's an award-winning initiative as well.
Yeah, it won an award last year, a Dynamic Place Award here in Scotland.
And so Kinbrace must be the furthest north freight yard on the main line in the UK?
It's certainly the remotest and also the most basic.
Right, so these trees are chopped in the Highlands, then they're loaded onto the train at Kinbrace, and then what happens to them?
They come down to Inverness, they arrive in the morning. Here they are being offloaded and taken to the board mills about 6 miles away.
And what's your role then to actually do, to promote freight or passenger?
It's to try and develop passenger and freight services to get the best use of the current network and to make sure it stays here.
So what else happens in this yard then? Because last time I was here, somebody told me about the famous Safeway Flyer.
Yeah, the Safeway Flyer is a 6-night-a-week operation. It leaves Glasgow just after 1 o'clock, arrives in here 5 o'clock.
In the morning?
At 5 o'clock in the morning. The train then splits, so most of it will remain down here, some of it goes on to Georgemiss Junction. So on arrival at both Georgemiss and Inverness, the containers are offloaded by a huge reach stacker, put onto skeletal trailers, and then taken to the stores.
And also I noticed a parcels train coming in this morning as well.
Yeah, the parcels train arrived after 9 o'clock. That's a Walsall service. Leaves Walsall at 1:30 in the morning. So 8 hours to do that distance is pretty special, really. It calls Glasgow and then splits to form Inverness and Aberdeen portions.
So what's your role in retention and development of these?
Well, acting as a kind of middleman, there's a sort of go-between angle to the job. It's to make sure that everybody feels that here is an asset that really needs capitalising.
So where are we now then, Frank?
We're at Bewley, which is just north of Inverness, and we're at the smallest railway station in Britain.
Smaller than Dilton Marsh near Westbury?
Yeah, because there's only one platform here, and it's just 15 metres long.
Now, what's the story behind this particular station then?
It closed in 1960, increasing demand for getting into Inverness, bit of congestion, so it seemed a good project to try and reopen.
And it's been quite a success, I
It's
understand.
been very successful. It's the third busiest station north of Inverness now, and 22,000 people got on the train here last year.
And what about the operation? Because it's such a small platform, you get 2-car units stopping here?
2-car unit stops here, but just one single door opens. The conductor controls one door only, and everybody gets on and off through that single door. Took a bit of time to convince the safety people that was okay, but the method of operation has been proved to be a great success.
So this is another one of your successful initiatives. What other ones do you have in the pipeline?
Well, from next year there'll be a train through here every 2 hours. There's 5 extra trains a day between Inverness and Tain, which is a £2.5 million project. That will start next year, and we'd like to look at some more reopenings as well.
And increase more passenger traffic into and out of Inverness?
Absolutely, yeah.
Although you are quite remote up here, you do seem to be quite resourceful.
Well, in an area that's fairly sparsely populated, I think a lot of expenditure has to be, justified. We want to develop things up here, so we have to find cheap ways of doing it. Hence, short platform, line-side loading of timber. To me, it's a kind of sensible way of making the best of the network that we have. We're not trying to demand the earth, but we actually just want to develop things a little bit better, make sure the rail network remains useful in today's society.
So how come you managed to wangle yourself on that fantastic trip to Germany?
Because I speak the language, of course.
What? Guten Morgen.
Ja, ja.
So Steve, was ist die Bremsstrecke Minimum der Transrapid mit einer 450 km pro Stunde Geschwindigkeit?
Ja, ja.
Fish on Friday from 9 takes us from here to Canada via Lake Nassau. Tools in the boot for Tommy Walsh next though, as he looks to make it big in Brixham.